Hello, everybody. Welcome to the fourth opening for Eat Art Space. This is In the Soup with photographs by Ruby Berry, but calling them photographs is probably a little bit unusual because Ruby, who will be on in just a minute to tell us about the process, soaks her film and manipulates it before she even shoots it in the camera. This is sure to be an interesting process, and I am looking forward to talking with her about it. So I am going to invite her to join us, and while that's happening, I'll be sharing the local food feature for tonight, which is Dos Gatos Coffee Bar. So I've got my drink from them. I don't know if anybody else went on theme and actually, got a drink. Ruby, do you have a drink? Welcome. Okay, while she's getting connected, we are cheers. I'm toasting with my drink. I'm going to show you a little bit of a few of the goodies that are going to came from Dos Gatos today. So here we go. We've got delicious chickpea salad and avocado hummus. And the pimento cheese alongside smoked salmon on J-Bake spread. And if we zoom back, look, there's your piece, Sugar Rush. So anyway, so welcome to my dining room. And I think it's about time that we get started and talk about a little bit about you.
Oh, no. Oh, yay.
So anyway, in a few sentences, feel free to share the parts of your background that led to this whole discovery of this process and how you got started and all that stuff.
Well, it's kind of, one of those things that just sort of happened. I started out teaching myself film photography, I guess, about 7 years ago. I can't really remember anymore. But a year longer than you and I have known each other.
Okay. Okay, so a little bit before then.
Exactly. And for the most part, I'm a standard studio portrait photographer, medium and large format, black and white, carefully lit, kind of super highly organized shooting. And so when I started doing the alt process stuff, it was really just kind of something that was completely different than anything I'd done. Like if I take a portrait, I'm a zone system shooter, so I pretty much know exactly what that's going to look like when I get it, if I do it correctly, when I get it developed. But with the suit film, there's really, everything's a surprise. You never know if you're going to get an image at all. I don't really know. Well, I do at this point, because I've been doing it for over a year, I do know to a certain extent what some substances will do to the film, but even then, I never know what the resulting image is going to look like. Every once in a while, I'll be able to do something that kind of looks like I imagined it, but that's like maybe 1 out of 200 frames.
So this is a lot about trial and error and also about learning how to control a little bit of chaos, I guess.
Exactly. It's kind of like, you've got order and entropy, and this is my entropy side of things. It lets me sort of just be... whimsical is not the right word, but just be whimsy. It allows me to just sort of think freely or not think at all, and just kind of do things and see, what's this going to do? Like once you've learned all the rules, then you can break them, as the saying goes. And this is breaking all the rules. So I feel sort of transgressive in that respect, which I like.
So tell us a little bit. I actually had we had dinner in this dining room a couple days ago, and I made everybody pick their favorites and ask questions. They were like, "Do you have questions for Ruby?" And so I have some questions.
Yay! I may have answers.
Yes. And so one of my children said, "What kind of soup works best?"
That's a really good question. There are certain soups that are reliable. Like I know what baking soda and vinegar is probably what I've used the most. I know that I don't know exactly what it does, but it is my theory that baking soda somehow impacts the blue-green
Cheers.
dye. Exactly. I don't know. But that's all the things that have the baking soda and vinegar will always have that almost kind of absinthe fairy look to it with the swirly green spots. And so I
Okay,
kind of
the
know that
piece
will do
right
it.
behind me, this
Yes,
is Midsummer.
that's the perfect example.
All right,
Yes.
I'm going to flip it around and actually like, woo, make you dizzy.
Woo!
And so the green is like a chemical color that comes in from baking soda primarily.
Baking soda and vinegar, because I try to use things that will have some sort of actual chemical reaction when they hit each other, hoping that will impact the film. Now that one right there, Euphony, that's my favorite soup, but it's also the trickiest one. That's a potassium iodide solution, and it took me, I don't know how many rolls of film I destroyed. The first time, because like most of the time I leave my film in the soup for weeks, you know. And this one, I left the film, because I boil it first so the emulsion's soft, and then I put the soup in. I knew that it would be super destructive, so I left it in for a minute thinking that was safe, and it basically melted the film. And as I've now, it took me several tries, but just about 8 or 9 seconds is enough before it starts to melt through the emulsion. So, but when it gets right, that it has that sort of just absolutely otherworldly beautiful effect to it, because it is very destructive on the emulsion and the film itself. But when I actually get an image out of the potassium iodide soup, it usually is something that I really, really like.
So something like this, where you can clearly see that you photographed, you know, trees,
Yes.
that is a less destructive soup.
It is that one. All of those are done with, well, those are vinegar and baking soda for
Vinegar
the most
and
part.
baking soda.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And sometimes with some of them, I think in those I also have sugar in there as well, which, because I know that kind of,
and this one's
sort
one
of
of
a
my
rainbow.
favorites. Now, a couple
Yes.
of comments back, somebody asked what first gave you the idea to do the souping of the film?
Well, that actually was sort of I'm in a group called Film Shooters Collective, as are you. And a couple, I guess it was right before I started doing this, a member we had a question about it, and they were thinking about writing an article. And most of the time when people soup their film, they shoot it first, and then they soak it in the soup, and then they develop it. But I had a theory that if you souped it before exposure, that the results would be more intense, because once film's exposed to light, the silver and everything starts to decay. So I figured if you souped it first, you'd probably get more vivid results. So of course I had to test that theory, and a year and a half later, here we are.
Well, and that actually dovetails really nicely with another question that came up last night. And of course, I set my paper down across the way. So I'm going to circle back around and go grab it while we stare at my absolute favorite, which is called mitosis.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
That one's a special one. That's with crushed silica gel, and that some of the chemicals will alter the dye pack. Some of them will do things to the emulsion, and some, like silica gel or cooking oil, will sit on the film plane itself, which kind of creates almost a three-dimensional effect. And that's actually what those kind of blobs are.
Yeah.
Is silica that's stuck to the film plane.
Well, okay, so I'm going to wax poetic a little bit about this one, because what I love is that you have these things that feel like they're forwards, but then you feel like, oh, there's a hallway in the background or something, just based on what that, you know, I think photographers call it bokeh, you know,
Yes.
sort of the blurring of the background that makes you feel like there's space, you know, and things are far away, that the lens effect, and that's just super special going on in this piece.
And it's difficult because all the cameras I shoot with are basically almost entirely fixed. I have to shoot with what are called toy cameras.
I think I have one up on the shelf here that I can grab real quick.
Yes. Because you can't, as careful as I am about cleaning the film, yes, there you go. You have to shoot them in these little guys, because you can take those apart and clean them. But if I put it in a real camera, it would destroy it.
Yeah, we don't want to be doing that.
No,
not with your super nice ones, because that's like, yeah, that's expensive equipment. So that answer, so you're souping the film before exposure is part of what creates the really intense colors, is what you're saying. That was the question that my kids had. They were like, do you ever get brown? Do you ever get just gray? But I guess that's just not even possible with if you're souping it beforehand.
Well, sometimes sometimes I'll get weird stuff. Like Diet Coke will just really, really eat through the emulsion. And so I learned that, and it'll just leave it, unless you put other things in with it. Like if I'm using Diet Coke and Mentos is a favorite combination. And if I'll put cooking oil in, because that will adhere to the film and it kind of protects it from the soup. So like Zinnia Venus is one that was Diet Coke and cooking oil. And that's
this one.
Yes, and so you can see the shape, the Venus in there. That's where the oil had kind of stuck to some of the emulsion and protected it from the destructive effects of the Diet Coke.
Very, very cool. So how would you, let's like zoom out a little bit and talk about your fascination with the chemistry part of this and where that comes from and how that connects to how you name things.
Oh, I can't just learn a little bit about something. For example, when I started shooting film, I wanted to learn photography because I had gotten a cell phone and had discovered Hipstamatic, and I thought, well, I'd like to get a real camera. And all I had was a film camera, so I was trying to learn on that. And then a year later, I had built a darkroom. So that sort of exemplifies, I just don't really know when to stop. I kind of have to go all the way down the rabbit hole and through everything. And with chemistry, I think it's more, for me, I like things that combine both knowledge and craftsmanship and artistry. Like I bake as well, so that's kind of the same thing. I like to know how something works. I like to experiment with that. And so that's just sort of the idea of, plus I homeschool my kids, so a lot of times, like, if we're doing science, we'll come up with something that like, oh, maybe this would be something that we could throw in mom's film soup. So it's kind of integrative of both like how my wild brain works and how my life works. So, I mean, I think like the inside of my brain looks like, what is it, Ollivander's, the wand shop in Harry Potter? Like it's all crowded and stuff. So instead of wands, each box has like a half-formed idea or some bits of something, the song or a book or something, but that I've mostly forgotten. And so that's...
So when you look at these images and you're coming up with names, that's kind of where you're connecting things.
Yes. And a lot of times they kind of instantly connect, like with the sort of Afterlife series, like Summerland and Even Song and all of those.
Which are these ones?
Those behind you, yeah.
Yes.
Those two. But that's just one of those where Summerland came first and then...
The up one?
Yes.
Okay.
And then it just sort of Candyland matched in with that, and then Even Song, and then Midsummer with the OOMAR, and it just was kind of this nice series of four that, I'm kind of obsessed with mythology and folklore and that sort of thing. So it, Neil Gaiman, American Gods, all of that. So it just kind of, to me, I loved how they were all incredibly different. They almost feel like a different season. So it just was sort of natural that they all went together with that sort of theme. And that's, yeah. And they're all kind of otherworldly because most of that series is shot with a DIY splitzer.
Candyland is over here.
Yes, Candyland.
Yeah. So when you say splitzer, I'm going to try to explain that for people who don't know. It's like something that goes across the bottom half of the lens so that you're only exposing the top section of the image, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
And of course, this is a bad camera to use as an example, but this one separates the image into four. Yeah. So you can see four lenses.
One thing that, and the way that, because a lot of times people will think that it's like one that I flipped and like that it's basically asymmetrical, but it's not. And if you look at it, you can tell these are multiple partial exposures. So like I shoot it with the splitzer. So I shoot the top half of the film. Then I flip the splitzer up to the other side, shoot the camera upside down, and shoot the bottom half.
So, and is this one also split top to bottom? Okay. It's just a little harder to tell because of the distortion on the film there.
That one was closer to the very end of the film, so it got much more damage to it than the images that were shot later in the roll.
Do you think about that while you're shooting? Like,
Yes.
do you okay, I was gonna
Yes.
say, like, so you're at the point where you're making plans for, okay, this one goes here, this one goes here, this one goes here, because I know that this is going to happen later.
Yes, and if it's an image
Nice.
that I particularly like, I'll just shoot. Most of the times, I'm shooting with short rolls. Usually, I no more than 12 frames per roll because
And that's
I also learned that
you
if you
cut your
shoot
own
even with
film.
well, for some of them I do, but I
Okay.
find these little short rolls of 12 frame Fuji because if you shoot with 24 or 36, you don't get as much effect because it's looser. 12 frames of film is much looser in the canister, so it gets more soup. So yeah.
Ah, okay. So there's an advantage to having them shorter, and then also you have these little bits of experiments that you can
Yes, it's
then move
not like
along with.
wasting a whole roll of film. I'm only wasting 12 frames, so if I get one image out of there, I'm pretty happy.
Now, do you have one that's an absolute favorite for yourself? I'm going to take just kind of a quick walk around the gallery.
It's hard because I think Evensong is probably my favorite color wise, but Midsummer, the green and blue one, and Upside Down are probably my still kind of my two favorites because they were some of the first rolls I shot. And
Okay, so I'm going to pop over to Midsummer here, which is this one. It's green and blue one. I'm walking around the dining room table, which is why I keep zooming in and out.
No, it's good. That one is one that like I had never. That was on the first roll of soup film I shot, so I had no idea.
I didn't even notice that this one was a split one too.
It
It's
is.
really subtle.
It is, and there's like, if you look at it, they look like faces, and it's all really yeah. And that was one of the first. That was on the first roll of soup film I shot, and I was hooked by that. And that's actually I just took a picture of the clouds off the corner of the front part of my house, and if you know where to look, you can see the corner of my house. But I was just so like amazed that anything turned out, and it's so kind of Shakespearean, and I just loved it. So yeah, so that's always going to be one of my favorite images because it's what kept me going in this.
And I have a small copy of Upside Down here, which
Yes.
for those of you who are interested in purchasing these prints, we have small ones and big ones. So this is, am I holding upside down, right side up?
Yes, you were correct. Yes, it's correct. And that one that's actually, if anybody is familiar with Johnson City, that's the playground at Northside Elementary. And if you look in the background, you can see the steeple of Utterbean Church behind it. So, and that was another one where, was it Stranger Things was going on? And so,
Yes, it
yeah,
felt very. Well, I'm going to share another like Johnson City local food thing, but that is not maybe what's on display tonight.
Yes.
This little guy, I didn't really necessarily want to put him next to Midsummer. I don't know. This is the regional fast food chain of Johnson City, the Magical Pals that we all love. And
Cheddar Browns forever.
yeah, I know. Oh my gosh. I still have an in-joke with my family about their slogan, sudden service. Ah!
It is shocking.
It's shockingly sudden service.
It is. It'll get you. Now that was another one in the first couple rolls I shot where I was trying to shoot things that were very visually identifiable. This is before I really knew how soup film worked, and so
okay.
Yeah.
So you quickly moved your way into abstraction.
Yeah, I like once because Pals was what I thought I was going for, but then when I saw Midsummer and Upside Down, I was like, no, I'm just going to get as weird as possible to make it
creepy. So we've got the same like green patterning here, and then it's a lot more subtle over here on top of the Pals corner.
It is, and
it's a much more.
That one's cropped in a fair bit too.
Yeah,
I was trying to get the whole thing, but I was also like really awkward. I didn't want to be seen as this like and you know how I am with things. I was like, I don't want anybody to see me do something over by the Wendy's like.
No, I mean, as having worked as a photographer, I used to carry this like little piece of paper that had like the official like what your rights are as a photographer, like just in case I needed to like talk to somebody.
Think that's
smart. So, not that we want to intentionally be disrespectful, but sometimes there's issues.
We've got to document things, and I was just
Yes.
So I was like hiding over there behind the minivan, shooting the hot dog.
Well, I will say that what's very striking about your work is that it's so otherworldly, but it's made in the middle of this very like intense personal locale, and it comes out of, you know, one place. You're not, it's when you think of photography, you often think of like traveling around and doing stuff, and you don't often think of like it as painting or
No, and
so do
it's
you.
because a lot of times, because I'm home with the kids and I don't have the ability to go a lot of different places. So almost all of my images are shot in my backyard or around my neighborhood. I've got a lot of pictures of like neighbors, flowers, and trees. There's one series that deviates from that, and it was like the middle of winter and everything was gray and brown and ugly. So I loaded up my camera and I went to Michael's. And actually, Bifrost is one that I shot there. That's
Oh
the
yes,
ribbon
let me go find that one. Honestly, these are actually the small prints that are available on the website for purchase. So these are the flower ones, and of course there's a little bit of reflection going on because they're all neatly packaged up. But this is Bifrost.
That's Bifrost, and that is a double exposure of the ribbon aisle at Michael's.
You know, I think that I know that for some people it can be a little bit off-putting to find out like how it's made, that the how it's made can remove the magic for some people.
Yes.
But for me, I think that that makes it even more magical. It's like, nah.
Well, you can find magic anywhere, and that's the whole point. If you're sad and it's gray outside, go to Michael's and get some flowers.
I know, go get some
roll
fun.
around there.
Tell me about these two, because we haven't spent any time talking about this little corner here. This guy.
That is
maybe where the names come from, or there's Mother and Aurora.
Mother, the one on top is, I mean, obviously, I have 3 kids. My oldest is 21, my youngest is 9, and it's just, trying to do all the things you want to do as an individual human while caring for your kids, raising them, and it just sort of, and when I look at that image, I can never tell whether it feels oppressive or comforting. So I think that that's kind of a conflict in the theme of Mother anyway. So that's like, to me, it's just one of those, like, as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, that's Mother right there.
That's a mother.
It is. So it definitely is.
No, I definitely feel that tension.
Yeah.
And this is not Aurora, it's Aura.
Aura, yes. I'm one of the many lucky people who have fierce migraines. I get scintillating scotoma with mine, which is actually fun. I enjoy that part. The rest of it I could do without. But so there's also a lot of my images are kind of named after things that affect me personally. And anybody who's ever, experienced a really intense visual migraine, this might be the way they see things as well, but that is often the way things look when I'm having like a huge migraine, because it not only it affects my visual field, but I have synesthesia, and so when I have an intense migraine, it kind of kicks that into overdrive, and so, woo, it's like LSD just everywhere. So yeah, don't do drugs.
No, don't do drugs. Just get migraines. Except no.
Migraines, yeah, that's all you need. You don't. Yeah, get migraines. You don't need drugs.
No. My migraines are not nearly as cool. So this Bleeding Heart show.
Yes. Now that's one that is, I have to check and see, is that, I'm going to check real quickly. Where did it go? Okay, that's cross-processed expired slide film that I shot on this cool little old Italian metal camera that's kind of my trusty buddy. It's one of the first ones I started shooting these on. And that's an image from my backyard. And it's just one of those things where it's got these lovely kind of globby blobs and the colors are nice and vibrant. So it's just, that one is Bleeding Heart Show, just in case any, I don't know why people, Bleeding Heart Show is a reference to one of my favorite bands, the New Pornographers. That's a song of theirs that I happen to like very much, so. And then Bleeding Hearts is also a type of flower, so.
Yeah, we really like these. we are coming up on the end of our time on Instagram, and I wanted to really quickly recap a little bit of what Dos Gatos gave to us tonight. Once more, for those people who did not come early, Dos Gatos is not just coffee. It is amazing pimento cheese, amazing avocado hummus, and chickpea salad, along with smoked salmon and bread by Jay Bakes. And I wanted to know if you had any people or other places to thank, or if you would like to recommend other of your favorite eateries around town.
There's so many places. Obviously, Dos Gatos is my favorite. One of the things that makes Dos Gatos so special is that it is run by people, Dick Nelson and Kate Pierce, who are also hugely important to the artist community here in Johnson City. And so, you know, they have big love for everything they do. And I was actually going to have this is now currently my official first solo show, but my first solo show, yay! But my first solo show was going to be at Dos Gatos this year. So I feel like it's kind of a nice full circle that we're doing it here with them. It's kind of like we're all together on that. So it's lovely. Johnson City is such a great community. It's hard right now because so many small businesses are struggling or closing. So, you know, anybody, wherever you are, whether it's Johnson City or elsewhere, get out there, you know, support your small business, buy some art.
Grabbing my coffee.
Yes, drink your coffee. You know, you can do it safely, you know.
Buy look, music, I went out and got it safely. You can too.
And to just get out there, because we're going to, you know, we're all going to get through this, but not everything's going to get through this. So let's just kind of try to support, you know, whoever we like, and just kind of do what we can to keep our communities together.
Well spoken. Anyone else that you want to thank before we sign off and then hop on to Facebook?
I want to thank this Jocelyn Mathewes.
Sometimes she shows up.
Jocelyn,
you never know when she's going to show up.
She is amazing. And Jocelyn has supported me literally more than anybody else in my life for my film photography thing. The first time we actually met and talked was at...
You got to pick someone else.
Jocelyn Mathewes.
Oh, come on.
Terry Dosher.
Yes.
With the Willow Tree. I wouldn't be selling art if it weren't for Terry. She has given me a space to sell and create, and I've had exhibits at the Willow Tree. She's been wonderful, and another kind of personal incubator of mine. So
Willow Tree
and
forever.
All of my friends, Laura Bowman, Ren Allen, Heather, Ashlyn, these are all, you know, Crystal. If I didn't have my people, I wouldn't be here today.
Mm-hmm. Very well spoken. Well, if anybody wants to hear more stuff or watch Ruby type out amazing answers to things on the Facebooks, I'm going to save this video and then we're going to hop onto Facebook and do some more. So I'll see you in a little bit. I'm going to put my coffee down and ta-ta for now.
Bye.
Bye.